Run.
You wouldn't even ask.
All right. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order for the Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 Warrenton Board of Aldermen. If you would, please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item will be the military banners.
We have one military banner for William G. McKenzie, U.S. Air Force. Is Janice McKenzie here today? Could we get a picture with you by it?
Oh, by all means, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next item will be the consent agenda.
We have the regular meeting minutes from October 21st, 2025, the work session minutes with planning and zoning on October 30th, 2025, and the office cleaning bid awarded to Crystalline Cleaning in the amount of $47,250, the only bid.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Lang, seconded by Alderman Romaker. Roll call vote.
Alderman Lang?
Yes.
Alderman Scholes?
Yes.
Alderman Crump?
Yes.
Alderman Corder?
Yes.
Alderman Waite?
Yes.
Alderman Romaker?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next item will be the bond ordinance. Is Sean here yet? Sean? Didn't know. I know you got caught in traffic. If you want to come up or... Joy will come up too.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't remember who I am, I'm Joy Howard, and I'm your financial advisor for this transaction. And this is Sean Flynn, who's your bond counsel for the transaction. So I can talk to you about the financial results. Sean can talk to you about the legal results. And this is his new associate who I'm meeting for the first time. So. What's your name?
Amalia.
Amalia. If you recall, when we got proposals in just a couple of weeks ago, the rates, the best proposal was from Stiefel Nicholas. The rates weren't finalized. The rates were to go up or down according to a published index. And over the past couple of weeks, interest rates did go down just a little bit, but that resulted in your debt service being about $52,400 lower than we had expected. And the proceeds, the money that you can spend for actual project costs, is about $21,400 higher. So debt service lower, spendable proceeds higher, both of those being fantastic results. Stiefel did exactly what they said they were going to do, and luckily the market did exactly what we would want it to do. So that's all I have to say, unless you have some questions.
I don't. Thank you, Joy.
Sure. So just briefly, so before you is the bond ordinance, which approves all the numbers which Joy just talked about. And just as a reminder, this is the remaining voted authority which the voters approved back in 2023 when they approved $13 million of bonds. This is the remaining amount, which totals $8,105,000. And so it approves the interest rates that Joy talked about, and closing is scheduled for November 13th, which is when money will be deposited in the city's account. So And so we're happy to answer any questions which you may have.
I don't. Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
Thank you. As said, this will be a bill, so I will entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 55-25.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Romaker, seconded by Alderman Lang.
Bill number 55-25, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of combined waterworks and sewerage system revenue bonds, Series 2025, of the City of Warrenton, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of the bonds and the covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain actions and documents and prescribing other matters relating thereto.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of bill number 55-25.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Corder, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
Bill number 55-25, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of combined waterworks and sewerage system revenue bonds, Series 2025 of the City of Warrenton, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of the bonds and the covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain actions and documents and prescribing other matters relating thereto.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Scholes?
Yes.
Alderman Crump?
Yes.
Alderman Corder?
Yes.
Alderman Waite?
Yes.
Alderman Romaker?
Yes.
Alderman Lang?
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. Thank you. Michelle, I think you're up to talk about SNAP benefits.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you all know who I am. I'm Michelle Bernth. I'm the Executive Director at Agape. I'm here to talk tonight a little bit about the current SNAP cuts that are happening, of course, across the country, but also what those impacts look like here in Warren County. I'd like to start by thanking the city for doing a food drive, as well as a number of you individually who have either donated food or reached out to me about how you can help. So I really appreciate that. Agape has obviously been a cornerstone social service organization in this community for 30 years. And we are always here for families in need, but right now, those families that have already been stretched thin are experiencing an unprecedented crisis. Obviously, at a national level, SNAP benefits have been cut. There was we don't have to get into all the court orders, but there was a court order today. That court order was indicated that court order would not be followed. There has been a slight release of some money from Missouri, but none of that money has hit yet. And these changes affect local families directly, right in their pocketbooks every single month. We are seeing a record-breaking uptick in surge of people coming to us for food support. We've actually really never seen anything quite like this. And when families don't know where else to turn, they turn to us. Obviously, we are about to come into the holiday season, which is already a tight time for families. So we are really bracing for this surge through the holidays to try to figure out how to make sure that no families in Warren County are going hungry this winter. We have almost 3,000 families in Warren County that depend on SNAP every single month. These aren't strangers, right? They're our neighbors, they're our coworkers, they go to school with our kids, they go to church with us. They are people that you know. I tell everybody, if you think you don't know somebody who receives SNAP, you just simply don't know, right? Every single one of us comes in contact with somebody who receives those benefits. So on a normal month, we feed about 1,500 people. The month of September, our numbers were 1,776. In October, that number was 1,946. Already in November, what is today? November 4th, 3rd, 4th, something? We're at 369. So those are really scary numbers to us because we know that our current supply will not be able to meet that need. The other piece of this is that the resources that are coming into agencies like ours have also been cut at the same time. So it's really a double whammy of this increase in demand and a decrease in resources. So a significant portion of the food that we provide comes from the federal government. About half of what we provide comes from the federal government. And yesterday that truck came, and it had about a third of the food on it that it normally does. So it's a dramatic decrease. So every dollar that we bring in helps us provide food to families here in Warren County. I'm here tonight to ask the board for an emergency piece of funding of $5,000 to help us buy food for Warren County residents. With the SNAP benefits being delayed and the federal food shipments being cut, we are looking at every avenue to be able to help fill that gap. Obviously, the City of Warrenton has been a longtime partner of ours, and we are grateful for that partnership, and we hope that you will continue to partner with us and bridge that gap in this way. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
So how far will $5,000 go for you guys?
Not nearly as far as it sounds like. We were actually just talking about this before the meeting. Somebody posted on Facebook in one of the community groups that our shelves are stocked up. And we all internally sort of laughed and then panicked because we were like, no, because the shelves look fuller, that food will all be gone by the end of this week. $5,000, I mean, it doesn't last us a month. Yeah.
So when are you expecting to get the state help?
We don't know.
So when the government shutdown ends, how long will it take the pipeline to refill? Any idea?
We don't know. No, months. I mean, it'll be months. I mean, even in terms of people's individual SNAP benefits, the federal government is saying weeks to months, even if they were to do the partial fund that they said yesterday they would. Even if they did that, they still said it would take weeks to a couple of months for that to even hit people. In terms of the broader system, there's really absolutely no way to know.
Michelle, is there, I know I did see a particular post on perishables, that
Yes.
you were needing perishables. Is there any way that you, the Agape organization, can work with our local grocery stores where we can buy things and leave it or donate
Absolutely.
at that particular point? Because when my wife and I are shopping, it'd be kind of nice to say, hey, you know, add 2 more gallons of milk to our bill and pay for it there instead of buying it and taking it out to to the drop-off.
So that's an interesting concept. We do have a couple of people that will call grocers and order items, and then we will come pick them up. I'm not exactly sure about setting it up the way you've described, but I'm certainly happy to have that conversation with some local retailers and see if we could establish that.
I think that would be something that would, I don't want to say I'm lazy about that, but I think we're all, if we're looking for
Sure.
an easy way
Everyone
to do
is
something.
time crunched, absolutely.
Correct. If we could work something out like that, I know that I would definitely use that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank
Do you have any resources with St. Louis Food Bank?
Yes, so we are a member of both the St. Louis Area Food Bank and of Operation Food Search. We receive food from both of those. So for instance, the federal government food that I'm talking about, that actually flows down through the pipeline through the St. Louis Area Food Bank and to us.
So what's left over you're getting? Is that kind of how that works?
No, not exactly. So it comes down as a funnel. So there's the USDA, and then there's the Feeding America Network. Then that comes down to regional food banks like the St. Louis Area Food Bank, which comes down to distribution agencies like ours. So it is based on a mathematical formula that is called pounds per person in poverty. And that is the mathematical formula that determines how much food should be coming into this county at any given time.
And your number's 3,000, you said.
Correct.
I'm sure you guys need more than just food. What other items do you guys need?
Sure. So one of the biggest categories that we always need are personal care items. So shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, cleaning supplies, laundry detergent. Even when there are SNAP benefits, you can't purchase those items with SNAP benefits. So that's always a need for us, and the families that we serve are always really glad when we have that in stock.
Thank you.
So with that being said, let me just give you a quick one. I think honestly, we need to see if we can meet at least the 5,000, if not more. But I know we wouldn't be able to pull those numbers quickly. But can we do it by next meeting by be able to prove something for you guys? Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
If we, I mean, is anybody in disagreement with that? As quick-
I think we all
We
agree.
need to move as quick as we can on it, and then by next meeting, be able to prove something. Please.
Would you like me to come back at that meeting?
You can.
Okay. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good night.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Next, we'll have an Ameren presentation from Rob Dixon.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. My name is Rob Dixon. I'm the Senior Director for Economic, Community, and Business Development for Ameren, Missouri. And here to talk a little bit tonight about how Ameren plans to serve large customers like data centers, not just in any specific community, but really all across our service territory, which covers half of the state of Missouri. So we really do appreciate the chance to visit with you tonight. Before we get into it a little bit deeper, if you could just bear with me for 1 second. Before I worked at Ameren, I led the Missouri Department of Economic Development. I worked for Governor Parson in that role, and I was responsible for helping to attract and expand businesses all across Missouri. And in my entire career, and certainly in my experience working for Governor Parson, I've never seen a moment like we're in right now in terms of economic development opportunities that are happening across the country, and certainly here in Missouri. We have large manufacturers, we have certainly data centers, we have all kinds of businesses that are looking to invest primarily because of changes in the economy. And so while I'm not a data center expert, I did want to just start with a little bit of framing this in terms of why we're seeing such a surge across the country in terms of new data centers. And I think that graphic on the right tells a pretty important story. And what it's saying basically is looking at these different types of social media technologies and how many months it took to get to 100 million users. And Facebook, when it first came out, took about 3.5 years to get to 100 million people around the world and people across the country using that system. When ChatGPT came out, it took 2 months to get to 100 million users. And if you think about just our own daily lives, I bet every single person in this room has a couple phones at their house, certainly on them tonight, maybe a smartwatch. Most of us, I would imagine, shop online and we watch TV online and things like that. And it's really all of that that's driving this increase in the use of data and digital technology. There's also some national security implications to this. The president has talked about the need for the United States to keep up with China. And a lot of this is happening, like I said, not just here in our state, but certainly around the world right now. I wanted to share a little bit about what that means from a power perspective, because like I said, I'm not a data center expert, but I do know a little bit about how we're planning to serve data centers. And I know there's been some questions about how long has this trend been out there, and from a bigger, for the broader perspective, it's basically been something that's more or less happened overnight. So if you look at this chart, what it tells you is looking at the average amount of megawatts that an economic development prospect, so a business that was either already here and wanted to grow, or a new one that was looking at growing, or new one that was looking at coming to our community. Just before the pandemic, the average amount of power that they were requesting was just over 3 megawatts. And at the end of last year, you were over 180 megawatts. Now, you don't need to know necessarily what a megawatt or a kilowatt or a gigawatt is, but just for a sense of scale, a big box retailer is about 1 megawatt, and a big manufacturer is about 25 megawatts. And there are now businesses across the country that are asking for 1,000 megawatts. And so this trend really happened overnight. And again, it is happening all across the country as large manufacturers, as data centers are really looking to invest and grow. And so with that as the backdrop, we had to, as a company, Ameren had to have a plan for how to serve customers like this that we had not seen before. And frankly, the state of Missouri needed to have a plan for how they were going to deal with economic development opportunities like this, both from the energy perspective, but also just from a broader public policy perspective. And in Missouri, you may have heard that there was a new law that was passed this year called Senate Bill 4. And this was one of the first pieces of legislation that came out of the General Assembly this year. Governor Kehoe, when he signed the bill, talked a lot about how this bill was going to help ensure that Missouri and Missourians had reliable energy, not just today, but well into the future, that the power was going to be there when we need it, and also that it was going to be there to support economic development. But one of the things that Senate Bill 4 requires as a matter of state law is that an electric provider like Ameren has to have a new rate structure or rate plan in place for these large customers. We can't just plug them in and serve them like we've done with everybody else, because frankly, of their size, they require a lot of different approaches than we take with any other customer right now in that regard. And so earlier this year in May, Ameren, Missouri filed with the Missouri Public Service Commission something called the Powering Missouri Growth Plan, which is really a contract and a rate structure to serve really large customers like data centers that have over or are asking for more than 100 megawatts. Just like the rest of Senate Bill 4, the goals of the Powering Missouri Growth Plan is to help support economic development and make sure that the costs for that power are borne by those who are causing that. And that's exactly what I was hoping to talk about with you a little bit tonight. Now, we've filed this with the Public Service Commission, as I mentioned, and if you're not familiar with the Public Service Commission, they're an independent state agency that regulates utilities like Ameren. We can't do anything in terms of serving customers or setting rates or building infrastructure or really any of those basic types of operations without them reviewing and approving what we are submitting to them. So regardless of what you hear from me tonight, the ultimate decision maker on this is going to be the Public Service Commission of the state of Missouri, and they have to make sure that this plan complies with the state law, and that means they have to make sure that large customers like data centers are paying for their fair share of the costs. And that's what this plan is structured to do. And so there's a couple provisions in here that I did want to touch on because this is not how regular sized customers, if you will, receive electric service. And because of the size of these customers, the state of Missouri, all of us, frankly, who live and work here, I think, want to make sure that there are protections in place for other customers. And so some of those things that we have in this proposal to do include a long-term contract. If these customers are going to come here, they have to commit to at least a 15-year contract to take power, and that requires them over the course of that period of time to ensure that they're keeping up with their financial commitments. No other customer in Missouri is subject to that, and after this plan, if it is approved by the Public Service Commission, no other customer would have that type of provision. So that long-term contract is really one of the first pillars of this, if you will, that make sure that these large data centers are going to pay their fair share. The second piece of it are minimum payment obligations. So I'll talk a little bit in a bit about how they come in and they ask for power and how we decide, if we're able to serve them. But regardless of the amount of energy that they ask for, by signing that contract, they have to make sure, they have to agree to pay for a minimum amount of power. So they might ask for a certain amount, and they might not use it based on their operations or as things change over time. But by signing that contract, they're paying for that because we are building resources and things like that to serve them. And so if they're going to be here, if they're going to ask for a lot of power, we want to make sure that they're making those commitments. Another item that is not applicable to any of our other customers are financial security and upfront collateral payments. So again, if they're going to come into a community and they're looking at new infrastructure that's needed to serve them, we want to make sure that they are able to financially meet their obligations to pay back all Missouri customers and all Missourians should they, for whatever reason, leave. And we don't ask this and we don't require this of other customers right now, but if we're building infrastructure, they need to commit to that upfront collateral and financial security. And then should they, for whatever reason, go out of business or terminate their contract or leave, they would be liable for significant exit fees that they have to pay and they're obligated to pay contractually. So These things are part of this Powering Missouri growth plan. It's being debated in front of the Missouri Public Service Commission right now. If you're at all interested, you can read literally hundreds and hundreds of pages of testimony. If you're so inclined to do so, you can see different angles. You can see different groups have different perspectives on things. But at the end of the day, the Public Service Commission is going to require that these large customers pay their fair share, no matter where they go in our state, because that is the state law. And then finally, the last thing I would note, anytime a data center or a large customer connects to the system, they are paying directly those costs to do so. Those are not being passed on. If they're extending a line, or if they need switchgear or transformers or things like that directly because of and caused by their business, they're paying the cost of those upfront and 100%. I wanted to touch on a couple things related to reliability and service issues, because I know from time to time this question comes up, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about sort of the process that happens when a big customer like this knocks on your door and asks if you have the power to serve them. And the first thing that we do is to make sure that our system, the grid, the poles and wires, the system itself has the capacity and the capabilities to serve them. We're not going to commit to serve a customer that we cannot serve reliably without impacting the rest of our customers on the system. So it goes through extensive engineering reviews. We look at what their power requirements are. We look at what is happening across the grid, and we make sure that before we agree to move forward with them, that we can actually serve it reliably. Our number one priority, first and foremost, is to deliver reliable power to all of our customers. And we absolutely are not going to let a new big customer jeopardize that for anybody else. So it goes through extensive engineering reviews before we even take the next step. And I'd also note that those reviews are not just something you have to necessarily take Ameren's word for. We're connected to a broader grid across the country. You may have heard it referred to as MISO, and it's essentially the system or different grids that interconnect different power companies together. This one in particular runs from Canada down to the Gulf. We're connected into that. Those engineers also look at these projects to make sure that nothing is going to jeopardize the reliability across the broader grid. If these large customers are going to hook up, they have to make sure they're meeting all the requirements to do so that they do not jeopardize reliability for anybody else. The next angle on reliability I want to talk about is just the sheer amount of power that's available, because we obviously get that question a lot of if that graph earlier showed a lot of increase in electric use, how are you actually going to be able to serve them? And so again, first and foremost, we are here to provide reliable power to all of our customers, and some of the provisions in Senate Bill 4 were really developed to make sure that Missouri has reliable, adequate resources to serve not just today's needs, but also going forward. And so earlier this year, we updated what's called our Integrated Resource Plan. And this is a 20-year, essentially, forecast out into the future to look at what we expect the demand from all of our customers to be compared to the supply of power that we're generating across the system. And through that process, we identified our ability to serve 2,000 megawatts of additional customer demand. And so again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's one customer or 2,000 customers or anything like that, but it's a set amount of power that we filed with the Public Service Commission. It's a public document. I would encourage you to take a look at that as well. It's on our website. And so what I'm saying on that point is we're not chasing after every data center that comes across our desk, so to speak, but we've identified an amount of power that we feel we can responsibly and reliably serve, and do so in a way that's prudent for all of our customers. And this slide is really a kind of a summary of that. It's arguably a bit of an eye chart here, but again, what it's pointing out is this is a 20-year look. We have to plan pretty far out into the future, and that's how we have always done it, and that's how we will always do it. But we're planning to serve this 2,000 megawatts of additional customer demand with a variety of different generation resources, because some of them you need them for reliability, some of them you need for affordability, and it's this balance of different types of resources all across our system that are going to serve all of our customers. So one power plant does not serve one customer. All of our power plants serve all of our customers. And that's how the system is designed, and that's how it's always been designed. And so, again, you can see much more information about this if you'd like on our website. But this is what we do in order to ensure that we have adequate resources. And we do have adequate resources to serve the customer demand that we're seeing right now. Just in a last couple points, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But again, I just wanted to note that this Powering Missouri Growth Plan, it does help all of our customers on our system because, number one, it's complying with the law. It's making sure that these large customers pay their fair share. And by doing so, when you add additional customers like this, by them helping to pay for the infrastructure that all of us are using, that can help benefit others all across our system and help benefit all of our customers. And I mentioned that testimony that was filed in the Public Service Commission. One of my colleagues is named Steve Wills, and he filed a lot of testimony this week, 100+ pages, where if you really want to roll up your sleeves and look into exactly how these data centers or these new large customers can provide some benefits to all our customers, I'd encourage you to take the time to do that. I know this is a complex question. It's certainly one that, as a Board of Aldermen and as city leaders, I know you're wrestling with. But I would encourage you to take a look at some of that to get deeper into the facts. Just a couple points here, and then I really will wrap up, I promise. Number one, number one, again, the infrastructure upgrades that are required by any data center or any large customer, when they directly connect to the grid, they're paying 100% of those costs. We sign contracts with them to that point. We don't build anything until we receive that funding, and that is how it works. They are not passing those costs on to others. As I mentioned, Senate Bill 4, there are protections for other customers. From what we've seen, it's one of, if not the most protective in the country as it relates to making sure that these data centers pay their fair share, and we do think that there's benefits that are going to come as a result of it. A little bit more locally here, I know there's been some questions about some of the infrastructure that we have here in the county, and I just want to point out Root Beer, and you might have heard it referred to as Root Beer Substation up north, and the Split Rail Solar Project. Those were planned to meet all of our customer needs well before we got to this point today talking about data centers that are part of our system. We've been planning for those resources, and every asset on our system does serve all of our customers, as I mentioned earlier. They weren't built specifically for one customer, and that's just, like I said, that's how we've always done that, and that's how we always will. Another couple questions we've gotten previously, are they getting, would data centers get a discount for green energy or clean energy or anything like that? And the short answer is no. They would actually have to pay additional if they have additional targets that we can't meet in terms of clean energy from all of the resources that we serve. Part of economic development today means being able to provide the type of power, not just the amount of power that new customers are looking for. And some customers do have stringent clean energy targets in their own right, and that's fine if they do. But they're not getting any incentives from us to accomplish that. In fact, they'd be paying a premium to access that. So that, again, benefits the rest of us as a customer. I wanted to note that data centers and large industrial companies are not in the same rate class as residential customers. I know there's been some questions about that, but they are in entirely different rate classes. They're not in residential classes whatsoever. We are not offering discounted rates or incentives to these data centers. That's sometimes been a question, but they're going to pay their full freight and not get any incentives from Ameren for that. And then finally, just what happens if a data center fails? Because I think that's maybe some of the scariest questions out there is if you have to build all this stuff and they end up going away, then what? And that integrated resource plan that I talked about, that's a big part of how customers are protected. Because it's a 20-year look out into the future, we would, if a data center would for whatever reason leave, we could adjust that plan into the future and not build things that we otherwise would have. And we are accelerating the construction of resources now in order to serve the demand, but if they went away, we would simply not build something that we otherwise would have. And then, as I mentioned, if they do leave, they have stringent financial obligations that they must pay in order to leave the system like that. And again, that doesn't apply to anybody else. I just want to, again, say thanks so much to you for your time tonight. I know these are not always the most exciting discussions, but these are really important ones that I know as city leaders that you're struggling with or grappling with as you think about moving your community forward. But the most important thing is, again, you don't have to take it from me, is the law in the state of Missouri that these large customers are paying their share to do business here, and we have a plan that has to be approved by the Service Commission to guarantee that and to demonstrate that. So there's more to come as that process proceeds. It's not finished yet, but as a Missourian, I at least hope you feel like there's some confidence you should have in how this process works to ensure that the law is being followed and that other customers are being protected. But I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you may have beyond that.
I have some questions. Okay, so first of all, you're talking about an exit contract, and I think it's great. I don't think 20 years or 15 years is long enough for that, but a concern there is, first of all, are you going to be using a QUIP? So construction work in progress. And if you are, how do you justify the ratepayer paying for the construction and infrastructure before the center is online? And if you have an exit contract, but what if they become insolvent? What is your plan for that?
So there's a couple questions there. First, on the exit fees or the termination. So if a customer comes in, first they have to prove that they have the financial wherewithal to engage into a contract like this. So there's creditworthiness checks, just like as you had with your bond counsel earlier. Anytime you have a significant financial transaction, there's going to be financial checks like that, and that goes into this as well. If those customers don't meet, if they have, in order to do it, I mentioned those upfront collateral payments. If they have to make security payments upfront, we've got those funds held in escrow should they leave. And so then finally, these are contractual obligations that they have to be bound by. It works just like any other contract that's out there. As it relates to QUIP, that really doesn't have anything to do with large load customers. QUIP is an accounting process in terms of how resources, the investments that Ameren makes in order to build new infrastructure can be recovered over time. And QUIP allows some of that to be recovered while it's being built before it's finally energized and in service. Part of that was included in Senate Bill 4 because there are some disincentives to us building, and so QUIP helped remove some of that. I'll also say that we have no plans at this point to file QUIP on this. If you look at Senate Bill 4, where this was authorized, it requires that the Public Service Commission review and approve any application for a QUIP accounting treatment on any new resource, and we don't have anything before them right now at all on QUIP. So again, just like everything else that we do, the state put in place law in order to make sure that the state of Missouri has abundant and reliable power. And that was part of that law that was passed, Senate Bill 4. And before we do anything with anything in that, any of those provisions, we would have to seek approval for the Public Service Commission, by the Public Service Commission before we could do it. So QUIP has nothing to do with the contract structure for these types of businesses or anything like that.
I think there's just a lot of, it would be silly to think that there's not healthy skepticism out there, given the fact that Ameren built the largest substation in the state of Missouri in a county with 25,000 people in it. And then our state representative went on and printed an article saying that, we need this for infrastructure. And, we can't just magically appear 20,000 more residents to accommodate the substation. And I see where that skepticism comes in because the ratepayers absolutely were on the hook for that. So they're the ones who had to pay for it. So I can understand where they're concerned about this. So with the same way, do you guys have a PPA with this potential data center?
We don't have any PPAs with any potential data center. So, and I assume you were talking about the Root Beer substation.
Yes.
To my knowledge, that is not the largest one in the state of Missouri. And just like I was talking about earlier on any other infrastructure that we build, before we build it, before that goes into our filings with the Public Service Commission, we have to demonstrate that those investments are prudent and needed in order to serve all of our customers. So we're constantly looking at what infrastructure is needed, not just today, but sometimes you have to replace resources because they age out or they need to be upgraded for those types of reasons, for reliability. So I understand exactly what you're getting at in terms of the skepticism, but that's not.
When our own state representative says it gives you reason to pause and say, what? If we didn't need it, why did we build it? Why are we paying for it?
What I would say is we did need it, which is why the Public Service Commission authorized it to go into our system. But also, it does allow the community to take advantage of that upgraded infrastructure for economic development purposes. If you have old and outdated infrastructure, you are not going to be able to help attract new businesses or support the ones you've got. And so we're constantly, like I said, looking at what we need to upgrade and maintain our system.
So have they, what they're asking as far as the load's going to be? You already have that?
We do, yes.
You do. Okay, so that was kind of the next question. What is the total estimated electrical load in megawatts that this facility is going to have in full build-out, and how does this compare to the utility's current available capacity?
Well, first off, as I mentioned, we do have a system that's designed, we announced in our integrated resource plan, the ability to serve up to 2,000 megawatts of additional customer demand by 2032. And that's across our entire system. Unfortunately, I can't share the specific customer information about any particular individual customer. I couldn't do it for your home, Alderwoman, and I couldn't do it for any other business. That is information that is confidential because of the customer's information. But we had to look at it. We know what they've requested. We studied it to make sure that it wasn't going to have a negative effect from an engineering perspective. And we do, as I mentioned, have a plan that allows us to serve additional customers reliably and not jeopardize that reliability for others.
Okay, so you know what the estimated load factor is going to be then based on that. Okay. How will Ameren mitigate the harmonics with the AI center? Will there be requirements for passive and aggressive filtering?
So we haven't yet seen what the final site plan is or the actual design of the data center itself. And so some of those get into when they come forward and have an operational plan in place that we would work with them to identify if there are going to be any potential challenges in terms of operations that might somehow jeopardize the reliability for other customers. When we do study them and when we do look at the initial requests that they bring in, we do make sure, like I mentioned, that it's not going to jeopardize the system, the grid itself, that we do have the ability to continue to serve other customers reliably. And there are a number of requirements that anyone that connects to the grid have to meet and adhere to, not just when they show up on day one, but over the life of their operations. As I mentioned, our number one priority is to ensure the reliability of the grid, and we don't want to bring a new customer on that's going to harm that.
Okay, so, and you're going to base in case they do become insolvent, but if they do, how can you hold them to that contract? Are you just going to say right up front, we're basing this on 2,000 megawatts, which seems really low? Are you considering future expansion? You've spoken with them, I'm sure.
So just to be very clear, the 2,000 megawatts is what we're expecting for electric load growth across our entire system between now and 2032. It's not specific to one customer, one data center, or anything like that. Those provisions that I talked about earlier, that's the contract structure, and it's not just one thing like a termination fee, but it's all of them working together that provide the financial guarantees from those large customers that if for whatever reason they should walk away after only a few years, that we would not have to pass those costs on to anybody else. And so again, also with that integrated resource plan, if a data center walked away for whatever reason, we would adjust that plan out into the future, and we would not build things that we otherwise would have. So it's really those two sides of the pendulum there. One is we wouldn't need to build it if they walked away, and the other is that there's, as I mentioned, stringent credit-worthy checks that have to go in place before we would enter into a contract like this. And if they can't meet those financial commitments, then they're not going to be able to do it.
Well, the reason why that concerns me, Rob, is because during Ameren's PISA filings before the Missouri PSC, that it plans to spend over $16 billion over the next 5 years. The company's rate base today is under $14 billion. By my calculations, that means the company plans on increasing its rate base by 114%, or more than doubling its rate base size in a few years. How will ratepayers be able to afford the electricity with that kind of increase? And what would happen to ratepayers if the data centers fail to cover their expenses or, again, become insolvent and that demand is not in there in your collateral fund?
Yep. So I put back the slide up on the screen that shows a summary of that integrated resource plan. And that gray area down in the bottom includes essentially energy centers, power plants that are scheduled to be retired over the next 20 some odd years. And so we need to replace energy centers in order to ensure that there's enough power for everybody over the course of the next 20 years, whether that's new customers or everybody that's already here on our system. And so that investment that you're citing is to build the infrastructure that all customers are going to need today and out into the future, whether they're the new customers or whether they're the existing ones. And so if, like I mentioned, if these large data centers, for whatever reason, would leave and walk away, we would not build things later on that we would have otherwise done had they stayed here. And so that right there means that we're not going to be doing, or you're not going to be needing to make that investment later. If you don't need it, you're not going to build it, because we're not building speculatively. We're building based on the demand that's out there, and that's what the Public Service Commission is looking at.
So if this, let's say the data center here, they go to expand and you guys need to upgrade from root beer to it, are they going to cover that cost for any upgrades, for any expansion?
If they are causing that cost, if it's an upgrade of the connection to the grid, they're going to be responsible for paying those costs directly, just like they are today when they're hooking up originally. Now, depending on what the size of their expansion might be later, that's we'd have to take a look at it to see if it's even possible. But before we would agree to an expansion, we need to make sure that the infrastructure is sufficient for them, to continue to operate at that increased amount for sure.
On that, kind of the same thing, others can use electric from root beer. This is not just directly to the data center, correct?
Yes, sir. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier, is when we build an asset, they're being used by everybody on the system. They're being used by other customers. Now, if this customer hooks up to root beer, they are paying to make that connection to do so. But it is what we call a network asset, and it's being used by all of our customers. Yes, sir.
Well, I think that the general population is concerned with their electric rate.
Yes.
And the concern, I believe, is that building industry that requires large amounts of electricity, it's a supply and demand thing. If the demand is there and Ameren has to build it, that's going to demand an increase in rates. And I think we're all looking for some kind of assurance that building data centers is not going to skyrocket our rates through the roof. I think that's what it all comes down to.
I understand that concern entirely, and I think the best assurance I can give you is the state has a law that requires that these folks pay their share of the cost to do so. And kind of what I was talking about earlier is when you bring in a new large customer, they're going to be paying for much of this investment to build these generation resources, as we have to serve them and all of our customers. When we talk about that share, they're paying a very large share of using these things that we all utilize for for electricity. But I do understand the concern. Again, it is the law of the land right now. It is not a proposal. It is not a discussion. It is signed by the governor. It's on the books of the state of Missouri, requiring that the Public Service Commission make sure these folks pay their share. And when you look at some of that information that I talked about earlier, when you have customers like this, there are actually benefits to the rest of our customers when we're all benefiting from that shared infrastructure that we're using. But I do understand the concern. I know these are new, very large businesses that none of us have ever seen before. But I do think we should have some confidence in the fact that the state of Missouri did pass a law to address it.
I can't ever remember when rates fell.
So with the Senate Bill 4, that's anything over 100 megawatts, right?
Yes, sir.
Is this data center going to start off being over that, or is it going to start off being under the 100 megawatts?
Usually what happens on any of these large customers, they don't start on day one at their full, load, their full electric load. So they will ramp it up over a period of years. But the way that our proposal is structured is when they sign that on day one, even if they're at that small amount, they're still obligated in the same way that if they were at their full peak.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it's what it's proposed to be, not what they start off.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Rob, I don't know if you can help us with this or not, but I think a lot of folks in our community were very concerned when the increases of our, not the data center, forget about that, rates increased this past summer. Can you give me a little synopsis on how that happened, why it happened, and also did that actually go through the PSC?
Yes, sir. So again, I absolutely understand why you're asking the question and why folks have the concern. To start off with, the biggest issue that was driving things over the summer was a really hot summer. And all of us were using our air conditioners more and longer than you do when it's not that hot. So that was a factor last summer. The second piece is you're exactly right. We did have a rate adjustment that went into effect during the summer. And that went to primarily pay for a variety of reliability upgrades that we're making. It went to a variety of system improvements that we're making, storm hardening, all of the things that we all utilize and want to make sure that our power's there when we turn the lights on and that it is more resilient in the face of severe weather and things along those lines. So that's what really went into that rate adjustment that happened over the summer. It absolutely was approved by the Public Service Commission. Again, no matter what it is that we do, it has to be approved by the Public Service Commission. And they have hearings and meetings just like you do here tonight, where it's a public process. Folks can agree, they can disagree, they can submit evidence, and it plays out over the course of a year.
So I think you've explained it, but we've talked about a lot of things within this.
Yes, sir.
The word brownouts has come up several times in several meetings. And I'm sure there's probably reassurances, but can you go through that real quick on how that would affect us, or would our community be affected by anything like that on a large load like this?
So I'm happy to review that. And so the first thing that we think about, whether it's a data center or a trucking company or anything else, is can we continue to serve all of our customers reliably? And if we can't accomplish that, then we're not going to move forward with that next that next business. And so when those customers, and in this case a data center, when they ask us, can we look at a particular location and can we talk about a certain amount of power, we go through those extensive engineering reviews before we agree to anything. And that is reviewed by our engineers to make sure that, number one, we can serve it from a capacity perspective. Number two, that it's not going to have a negative impact on other customers in the vicinity if there's voltage fluctuations or things like that. All of that gets reviewed by not just our engineers, but as I mentioned, by that regional grid called MISO that's looking at it, as well as a third-party reviewer. And so the other angle of this, or the other piece of this, as I mentioned, is making sure that we're we're reliably serving what we can do so responsibly. So this plan calls for 2,000 megawatts of additional generation between now and 2032, and it's not, just to be very candid about it, we have way more requests for power than are covered by that 2,000 megawatts of additional power. And what we've put forward with the Public Service Commission really covers what we can do responsibly and prudently and affordably for all of us, because we have to look at all of it. So from an engineering perspective, it's reviewed. From a power supply perspective, with generation, it's reviewed. And that's why we feel confident that all of those issues are addressed. Yes, sir.
Could you explain the difference in a gas simple cycle and gas combined cycle?
I am probably not the engineering expert to be able to do that, but in a nutshell, we have different types of gas-fired operations here that can provide power for different durations of time. And, gas is subject to a variety of regulations. And so when you think about the different types of resources that we're bringing on board, you've got different types of gas. You have nuclear, you have battery, you have wind, you have solar, and you still have all of our hydro, as well as the coal fire plants that are going to stay on the system until retirement. So balancing all of those out really gives us reliability, so that when the sun's not shining, you still have resources, and as prices and costs change, you can balance out the economics of it. But in terms of the operations of it, no, sir, I wish I could.
Okay. So you were talking about like the rate increase last year. Is there any proposals for rate increases in the near future?
We don't have any before the Public Service Commission. We don't have any that are pending right now. The only thing that we have out there that's pending is this Powering Missouri Growth Plan, which is a rate structure, contract structure for these large data centers. It does not address anything for anybody else. We also have what are called certificates of convenience and necessity, which is when the Public Service Commission looks at our request to build new generation. So those are out there, but no, sir, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Rob, Ameren is not a private company, is it?
We're a publicly traded company, yes, sir.
Company. That it would be in all of our 401ks probably, because it is a utility?
If you do have Ameren stock, yes, sir, it would be. The only other thing I would mention as a public utility, all of this is public record. Everything I've talked about tonight is public record. We have this information in detail on our website. It's accessible through the Public Service Commission's website. To the extent you're interested in it, you can dig in as deep as you want, but it is all out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, questions?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I am very happy to visit. My team and I are anytime that you need to engage with us on this, we're happy to follow up. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Next, we'll hear from the Greater Warren County Economic Development Council, Steve Etcher.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Thank you for the invitation to speak to you tonight. For those that don't know me, I am Steve Etcher. I am a resident of Warren County for the past 40 years. I've been working in community and economic development in this community, in this region, since 1988. In that capacity, I've been planning, preparing, and pursuing opportunities like the proposed data center that can create a positive impact for the future of our community. I currently serve as the Economic Development Advisor for the Greater Warren County Economic Development Council, and I'm excited to be able to share with you tonight an update on the Warren County Data Center project. I believe the Warren County Data Center project presents an incredible opportunity for our community. However, before I talk specifically about the proposed projects and the value it will bring to our community, I would like to begin by prefacing my remarks with just a little bit of historical context. The Economic Development Council was formed in 2011 as a result of the trends that we were seeing in our community following the Great Recession. The EDC formed as a public-private collaborative and is operating as a nonprofit organization with the sole purpose of improving prosperity in our community, with the intention of reversing the trends of poverty that we were seeing as a result of the 2008 housing crisis. To achieve this, the EDC feels it is best to really increase prosperity by pursuing and investing in business attraction in the industrial sector. We believe the expansion and attraction of these industries will provide the greatest benefit to our community. And here's why. Industries can create an incredible, significant capital investment compared to other types of investments that come to our community. Industries can create high-paying jobs, and industries pay a much higher tax assessment ratio in comparison to, such say, residential or agricultural properties. However, attracting industries to your community is a highly competitive process. It doesn't just, hey, we're open for business, come build here. It is very, very competitive, not only on a state basis, but on a national basis, and even more so on a global basis. So to be successful, you have to be prepared. In 2014, to increase our ability to attract businesses in the community, the EDC commissioned a study to look at areas along the I-70 corridor that could accommodate large-scale industrial investments into our economy. We have the Interstate 70 corridor, we have the Norfolk Southern Main Line, which are catalysts for economic growth. And so we identified areas where we felt we could really develop and attract those businesses. We looked for areas that could be served with public utilities, we looked for areas that would be consistent with local planning, and we looked for areas that did not have a high burden in terms of site development. One of the key areas that we identified in that study is the area of the community that lies north of the new Warrenton West interchange. This is a site we commonly refer to as the Warrenton North Industrial Park. To create that site, to make it an attractive development opportunity, we began working with the property owner to complete the due diligence on that site that is essential to attracting new businesses to our community, including annexing that property into the city limits for the city of Warrenton, rezoning it to an M1 classification, completing geotech analysis, completing environmental studies, and preparing and planning for infrastructure enhancements necessary to accommodate new investment in our community. The EDC also worked with local community leaders to make sure we had the right set of tools that were attractive to the global marketplace. Things such as the Warren County Enhanced Enterprise Zone, things like the Federal Opportunity Tax Credit Zone designation, and the Warren County Time Zone. Just tools to make our community appear as an ideal location for new future investment. And as a result, this site has actually been considered for a number of very high-profile economic development opportunities. We were finalists on a number of those key projects, yet to win that one, though. However, that effort to be planned and to be prepared for that type of growth has really positioned the community for this enormous opportunity that's in front of our society right now in the development and build-out of data centers. This site is attractive to data center industries for a number of reasons. It is a large tract of very developable land. It has access to very robust and large electric infrastructure. It has access to a talent pool, not only to operate it, but to build it. And with all the pre-development due diligences as completed, we can ensure that the end user can get speed to market, which is essential in today's market. So that brings us to the present. And I apologize if I put anybody to sleep in that history lesson. Projects of this magnitude don't come along every day. I've been in this business nearly 40 years. This is the most enormous opportunity in my entire career. And it's an industry that many people are not deeply familiar with. So the EDC chartered a bus. We invited community and business leaders to go see firsthand what a data center is and how it fits into a community. We visited the Meta Complex in Altoona, Iowa. That trip was very informative. It showcased several things. It showed the local community what a typical campus design would look like. It showed how that campus design fit into the local economy. It also talked and showed the scale and magnitude that this project could potentially have. And it also allowed local leaders to understand how that data center development really addressed issues that we hear all the time about noise and about resource conservation. And it gave them really good insights into that. It also gave them an opportunity to hear from other local leaders and other communities on the positive impacts that that development created. So I say that to say this. The Warrenton data center development should not be feared, but rather embraced. It should not be impeded, but rather expedited to help that company meet their energization schedule. Evolved Energy Partners, which is the horizontal developer in this project, they are the entity responsible for securing the path to power, securing the power agreements, and finding a suitable land, has been working over the past 6 months to acquire the necessary easements to energize this site from the root beer substation. They are doing that on their own accord. They are paying for those easements, they are paying for those line extensions and that line upgrade with private funds. Their effort was to secure the land and move forward with the site due diligence so it could accommodate a vertical developer to move forward with the data center project. To further advance the project, Evolve has recently selected and introduced their partner to do the vertical development of this site. That is the company that will be actually building the facility. The vertical developer is Crusoe. Crusoe is a fantastic company that has a great deal of experience in building data centers, and they are proposing to build a state-of-the-art data center complex at the Warrenton North Industrial Park. Crusoe takes a resource conservation first approach in all of their developments, and I think you will be pleased with their approach to this project. They will, of course, follow all your established processes and protocols for approvals. They will submit their site plan, they will come talk to the Planning and Zoning Commission at their hearing, they will come present their project plan to you at the Board of Aldermen. But a few things that I can tell you tonight that hopefully will help relieve some of the tension that's in our community. And these are updates that it's important that they want you to know as well. The development will use a closed-loop cooling system. What does that mean? It means they will be avoiding the use of any private wells or potable water supplies for evaporative cooling. They will be using a closed-loop system. The development will only primarily use water for domestic uses, toilets, drinking water, cleaning, etc., for their employees. And the developer will prepare a site plan that is very thoughtful and considerate of the public concerns that have already been expressed. So why is the data center a great opportunity for the city of Warrenton? In my opinion, take it for what it's worth, the data center industry is one of the least disruptive industrial developments you could wish for in an industrial area. A data center is essentially a large warehouse-style building that has racks of computers that process data requests, often built with pre-engineered concrete. They will provide significant employment opportunities during the construction phase and the operational phase. This project will generate thousands of construction jobs for our skilled tradesmen during the construction phase. There will be hundreds of permanent employees at this location when placed into operation. These are great paying jobs that will support a high quality lifestyle for those residents that will become employed there. Specific numbers on the permanent employees will met out as we go through the continued development process. But furthermore, this project will generate enormous private investment that will bring billions, that's with the B, I did not misspeak, billions of new investment to our community. That project alone will provide millions of dollars annually in local tax revenues to support our local taxing jurisdictions and our community amenities. It is an ideal location that will provide immediate access to Interstate 70, which will enable the construction to occur without straining the primary roadway network that we rely on in our community. But maybe even more important, it communicates to the state of Missouri and to the rest of the world that the city of Warrenton is truly development ready, and that will help us attract even more opportunities to enrich our community. Data centers are a very critical part of our lifestyle infrastructure. The service data center provides us are woven into everything that we do, and the utilization of that technology will only continue to grow. Data centers are just as important to our lifestyles as is the internet, and just as important to our economic growth as the electrification was of our country during industrial revolutions. Data centers support our businesses, our defense network, our healthcare systems, our education systems, our financial institutions, our farming enterprises, our automobiles, and of course, our handheld computers that we cannot detach ourselves from. In closing, let me say this. Data centers are and will become a reality. They will be built. They will be built somewhere. The available electricity, that 2,000 megawatts that Rob referenced, will be used. The only questions are, who will capture this development opportunity, and what community will reap the economic benefit of this industry's expansion? I believe this is a generational opportunity that will create a wonderful future for our community. So let's embrace this opportunity and capture those benefits that are out there for our taking. I would welcome any questions that you might have.
Steve, what can you tell us about Crusoe? How long have they been in business? Where are they from?
Crusoe is based in Denver, Colorado. I can definitely provide you a full bio on them. We just recently got introduced to them. We are aware of them. They're involved in some very significant nationwide projects. You Google them, you can find them. I believe they've been around for 10 years, roughly, in this space, which is a long time.
So with them, you only using water for domestic use. Do
Correct.
we have an idea how much water they're going to be using for that, though?
They're running our numbers for us, but a couple hundred employees, I mean, you're talking, it'd be less than 10,000 gallons.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you have the initial fill-up of the system as well.
that would be contracted water, yes.
And so with that being said, typically, that could be millions of gallons annually. So have they given you any figures on that?
Good question. No, they're still calculating what that need would be, but it would be a one-time fill, not an annual thing. They would fill their closed-loop system and operate it and chill that. Their engineering team is working on those data points for us, and we'll provide that to you as soon as it's available to us.
Unless there's leaks, or they have to refresh it once a year?
I would have to get with their standard operating procedure to verify if that's their process.
Okay.
They are very concerned about resource conservation.
Good. So the other question, I'm glad to hear that. So with that being said, will an impact environmental assessment be done, an EIA, be conducted for this project? And if so, will the full results be made available to the city council and public for review before any final approvals are granted? What are the expected noise levels? What assurance can you give us that this volume will not exceed that level? What are the expected light impacts? How bright is it going to be? What backup power will be utilized, and will it be on site? How will that impact noise, light, air quality? There are several. So we just
You
want-
expect me to remember all those questions. You're giving me way too much credit. But let me talk about what we know is they will be glad to sit down during the review process and cover all of those details for you. Ambient light, noise modifications, noise levels, they will have all of that information spec'd out once they get their site plan engineering fully completed to where they can actually give you factual numbers. How much they will use on filling the water system and how often there's evaporation that would require some refilling, they will provide all of that information to you.
Okay, so now I want to move on to, you said this is just, first of all, you said earlier, it's just something that's just been in the past 10 years. So it's definitely a boom, and I think a lot of people recognize that. But the problem with the boom is there's usually a bubble, which is what they're forecasting, which is why, I'm sorry, Rob, that's why I hit you up with so many questions about the collateral and about stranded assets, because that is the last thing we need, to have some big monstrosity here that nobody can do anything with when they decide to leave, if they exit. So with that being said, with the revenue that you're expecting, this huge amount, what about all the tax incentives from the state level that they're going to be receiving? And there are so many.
All right, so let's take your first one first.
Yeah.
What do you do with a data center if it's no longer in operation? Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. One, I would trust that, there's a bust and a boon and everything. I think we are so early on in the cycle, we would be well grounded in industry. But hypothetically, let's say 10 years from now, a data center fits into something this size, and we don't need a 500,000 or 200,000 square foot building.
Yeah.
Great. Those types of structures can be easily repurposed for manufacturing uses, for logistics and distributions. It is now an industrial park that has an existing asset that can be quickly repurposed for other job-generating ideas, and it is supported with incredible robust infrastructure. So there would be no limitations on what we could actually bring in there to backfill if that travesty happened and the industry no longer existed. So it is using private dollars to build our future, whether it's a data center or a logistics center or a manufacturing center. That brick and mortar will have incredible value long-term for the community.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong, but right now across the country, for CAPEX, it's about $2 trillion roughly. So we're talking about something that produces very few jobs, and on the manufacturing aspect, there is none. So we understand that they will have utility workers in there, they'll have IT professionals in there, but it's not going to be a large amount, as a manufacturing of that size would actually bring back into the local economy, and it would also not have all the tax incentives that our state and federal levels have incentivized, basically, for data centers.
Okay.
I guess the other thing, I'm a little concerned about, following it closely, I'm sure everybody is right now. I know that everybody said, well, we have to beat China, and I don't know, I guess I find that hard to believe. Our president was over there speaking with the leader of the Chinese and trying to acquire, I'm sure you know about this, trying to acquire the minerals that it would take, what we need to actually build these, and then collaborate for a worldwide data network infrastructure. So I don't know if it's so much about security, but on that note, I do have concerns about the security of this facility. I'm sure they will go over all that.
In your site plan, yes.
Yeah, and I know that I definitely will be asking these questions to them.
Well, let me answer the first two questions that I think I can
Okay.
answer for you. One is, what about the jobs? They will articulate to us specifically how many permanent jobs will be there. They'll show you here's the thousands plus trades that will be in construction, but they'll also break down for us what are the total number of permanent FTEs that will be at that site. What will they be making, what their occupation, what skills do they need, et cetera. So that'll all be part of their disclosure when they walk through the approval processes with you. But you bring up a good question about jobs. I've been doing economic development for quite a while. And one of the pushbacks we get is from our other business, please don't bring us a company that's going to employ 1,000 people because we can't staff it. It's not there. So I would put it out to you, which would you rather have, a large manufacturer that would take 300 acres and invest $1 billion and employ 8,000 people, or something that invests that same level and employs 250 that you can right now accommodate within your current labor? Those are the things we have to balance. And what is most important to the community? That's where we have this dialogue. What makes the most sense?
Right, and I think, there's, some people would feel this way and some people.
Oh, I get it.
I mean.
And we're still going after manufacturing. That is still the DNA of Warren County.
I would rather see the manufacturing and not.
Can I talk about the incentives and the jobs related to that before I lose that train of thought, and I'll let you ask the next question?
We're not going to be receiving, I think, that under the, is it the Missouri Works? So the tax incentive that's given to them, they basically take that money, that would be income tax from the employee, it goes to the state, and they take 25% of that and they put it into a fund, and they could use that money for their own infrastructure. And I have a hard time seeing why that would be valuable to our community when that money could be going to our schools and our EMS services and such.
So great question. The incentive that is Missouri Works is a performance-based program. So if they don't do what they say they do, they don't create the jobs, they don't hire the people, they don't pay the wages, they don't get any benefit. So it's performance-based 100%. And all it really is doing is redirecting the state withholding taxes back to the investment. School districts, your local taxing jurisdictions, do not live off of income taxes. That's only the state of Missouri. And if the state of Missouri has elected that's how they want to incentivize development, fantastic. It doesn't affect our local taxing jurisdictions. Your local taxing jurisdictions are property taxes and, for the most part, sales taxes. And there is a state sales use tax program for data centers.
Correct.
Which, that's up to the state discretion if they want to allocate that. The value to our community and to our taxing jurisdictions, some of which are here tonight, is the property taxes that will be collected on that. It will be the franchise fees that they pay on the use of that utility. That is where the local benefit will be in the millions of dollars.
Which we'll need to sit down and scrutinize heavily.
Please.
I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure they expect that fully.
Yeah, and we'll model all that out so you know exactly what the value of this project will be.
It's a lot more than that I'll be asking them, kind of like Rob, when they set their contracts up, this is what we have to have, this is what we want to see. So we have to make this as least impactful negatively on our community, on the residents, or on the people that are around it. And I think it would be silly not to think of it that way. Think of them first. That's what we're supposed to do. And then see if we can work it out after that.
I can appreciate that.
You know, I had mentioned basically mediation funds. There are things that they can do to help these residents out in the event that their wells could go dry, and that is a very real possibility.
And that's why I think the closed loop system should be embraced as fantastic news for those who had that concern. This
Yes.
will not affect their
And
water tables.
So answer this for me if you can. Now, we do know that they're developing in Montgomery County. Is this all the same end user, or are these different end users that you have gone out and attracted?
They are all different developers, all potentially different end users.
So, which leads to the next question, will they all be using a closed loop system, or do you know?
At this point, we're still in the development phases. We know some of them are using closed loops, some of them are evaluating evaporative cooling. Until we get through that design process, we don't know at this point.
Okay, and the only reason I ask, you know, people say, oh, well, that doesn't have anything to do with Warrenton. Well, it has to do with our residents. It does, because we're all dipping into
Sure.
the same pool for our resources. So
And that
it matters.
2,000 megawatts that Rob referenced, I'm greedy. I want it all. I want all of that investment along the I-70 corridor because I believe it has such a positive value to the future of our communities.
Well, I want it all for our residents, but I don't want them to be impacted
I
by it
understand.
negatively.
Oh, absolutely,
So-
absolutely. I wouldn't want that either.
Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
So
Oh, you're welcome.
you talked about environmental studies.
Yep.
And so what kind of environmental studies is this company going to do to make sure they don't affect the soil and the land around it and the neighboring properties around them?
Great question. Now, obviously, they'll do their due diligence. There's a number of permits that would be required for a project like this. Obviously, they've done the phase 1, phase 2, so there's no contaminations there that they have to be worried about. Anytime they would have any impacts on a jurisdictional water of the United States, they would have to work with the Corps of Engineers to obtain that. Any land disturbance not only requires a permit from the city, it requires a permit from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources to go in there and do that clearing. If they were doing anything that would create a permitted water solution or water source, that would have to be regulated by DNR. That's not their plan here at all. Any wastewater, they likely would just send to the city, so there would be no permit required for that. The only other permits that are possible is once they identify the methodology and scale of their backup generation, that may require a permit from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for air quality monitoring.
And there's a lot of people that are concerned about them wanting to build it right on the property line, bordering other properties.
Sure.
Are they willing to like have a buffer zone on all sides of like woods?
Yeah, I believe that as you evaluate their development schematic, you will see they have taken great strides to be very conscientious about all of these concerns. All of those things will be, I think, way beyond any expectation you have.
Okay, thank you.
So
Great
I think
question.
one of the things that was asked in previous meetings was about tax abatements. Have there been any talks of tax abatements? And if there is, what are they?
Yeah, great question. It'll be a discussion we have at some point. Once we figure out that this project is real and can be real, we will start having those discussions. The industry has certain expectations. Those expectations are being dampened dramatically here of late. I think priority number one is let's make sure it's a doable, buildable project. Then let's figure out the economics to it. You, as the jurisdictional authority, have the final and sole discretion of any incentives, period. So we will entertain what they would like. We will try to figure out something that's beneficial, but ultimately it's you guys, you individuals on this board that have that say. They can only ask, I can only negotiate, I can only advise. You guys are the authority.
Now, do you have any information on like the noise level and light pollution with?
Anecdotally, so this is nothing that I'm receiving from Evolve or Carrizo. Anecdotally, on the light pollution, I mean, I think those that went to the Altoona trip realized that it was not like a stadium. It was all downward trajectory lights. They were all low hung. They were even motion activated lights. And I guess what makes that happen? Every kilowatt of power that they can put towards computing power is their goal. Powering and illuminating the night sky does not achieve their business model. So while they will have security, the property obviously will be secure to be lighted for safety purposes and security purposes, it's not going to be a glow in the northwest sky. And security, obviously they would likely have high security around the
Well, I was
facility.
asking about noise. I know.
Noise, we will have to get their studies, but based on the design, it's really all encased within the building. Probably the only noise that would be noticeable would be when they would test their backup generators, if that's the methodology that they use for backup power. Been on that site many a times. I would say the biggest noise out there is rumble strips on Interstate 70. I think you all know what I'm talking about.
Steve, on this closed loop, is there any waste water to that at all?
Not intended. No. And they're designed to be just that, a closed loop system. I mean, obviously there's always going to be ongoing operation, maintenance issues, but that's a great question for their engineering team. What has been their track record with a closed loop system, but that's not how they're designed.
Now, for some reason that there is water released, does that have to go through a filter to be cleaned of anything?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, nobody can just discharge water to the environment. If you do, you have to have a permit from the Department of Natural Resources. So, or in this case, if their wastewater flows into the city of Warrenton, you would have to have a discharge agreement with them to be able to take and treat whatever it is that they would be putting into your system. Now, you'll get to know their engineering staff very, very well.
Okay.
So, but ask them that question. That's what they're there for. Any other questions?
Anyone? All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Steve, before you take off, I apologize. I was writing something down. Let's go back to the EDC. I just would like a little bit of information from you on that. When you're looking for organizations, corporations, companies to come here, are those companies that you're looking at salary-wise equal to what the city's is currently? Or what is that?
Great question. Great question. So as the EDC, our mission, I'll see how many paid attention. How many can remember what my mission was? It's to increase prosperity.
Right.
Average status quo does not increase prosperity. We will not work with any company that does not at least pay 120% of the current county average wage. If they do, if they pay less than that, there's other places they can accommodate. But here, we want that rising tide to lift all boats.
Thank you.
We're selective. We're buyers and sellers, but we're very selective on what we're buying.
Are those all, I don't want to say local, but U.S. corporations that you look at, or do you look outside of the U.S. to bring companies here?
Sure. So the way it works is we work with a network of institutions that provide leads to us. You know, in the state of Missouri, you got the Department of Economic Development, you got the Missouri Partnership, which do a great job of out there saying, hey, Missouri's open for business. If you're looking to expand, come to Missouri. So oftentimes they will bring us leads. You have site selectors, that's their job, is to work with companies to help find communities to build and expand in. We have relationships with them. And those site selectors will bring projects to us that may be from the state of Missouri, they may be from the continental United States, or they may be international. Now, just as a matter of practice, whenever we have an international company looking at our community, we ask for an org chart. I need to know who's the top dog investing in that company, because we're very selective. We don't want just anybody here. And there's actually a number of foreign companies in our county already. I mean, you got the Kiko Man, you got St. Gobain, which is Certainty, you've got Cascades, which is from Canada. So, you know, we're not opposed to foreign direct investment in our community, but we want to do it with a great deal of due diligence.
Thank you.
Now, with all the jobs, construction jobs and permanent jobs, it's all going to be locally hired, right?
I cannot speak to that. I mean, obviously, we've got a number of trades. In fact, I saw several trades in the room tonight that would love the opportunity to work local. Stay off of I-70, come work in Warrenton, right? But as far as overall jobs, you know, right now there's 11,000 people that leave our county every day to go to work. My job's not done till those 11,000 people have an opportunity here at home. That's how I measure my success. So, yeah, there's a lot of people who live in this community that have the skill sets that we need to make these projects successful that are right now spending an hour and a half a day driving them down I-70 that I want to change their quality of life.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have another question. You probably know this better than anything else. Like local tax exemptions, can they be removed from the state exemption if somebody asked for that? I don't know the answer to that.
You mean, can they participate? Who determines if they participate in the state sales tax exemption?
Your library, your emergency services, they all get certain pieces off the sales tax that have been approved by the voters. Is there a way to be able to remove that or keep that on anything?
My understanding, and I can clarify this, that on the state sales and use tax exemption that the state has, it would exempt state level assessed sales tax and local assessed sales tax. Your local sales tax is entity driven. It only affects those taxing jurisdictions that have that. So I will clarify if they can opt out. On other incentive programs, emergency services agencies can opt out. They don't have to participate in any incentive deal that's locally driven. But I will find out about the state. My gut says no, but I will verify.
And the reason why he's asking, because there are a lot of tax incentives to where and Missouri is included on that, okay, where they will not have to pay, like for computers, servers, things of that nature, which is huge. It could be the tune of $50 million a year in revenue, huge, that we will not be receiving. So we'll just be receiving on the square footage of the building.
You know, I wish that were true, and I'm not trying to be argumentative. I wish that were true. I don't know of any producer in the state of Missouri that manufactures data center equipments and computers. They're going to buy those out of state anyway. We're not going to reap that benefit. If we had a chip manufacturer right here in Warren County and they manufactured all the racking, yeah, then we may have something at risk. The way it is, honestly, I don't know what percentage of their product they would buy within the state of Missouri, but we can definitely delve into it. But I understand the concerns, like why are we giving this away? Sometimes you got to give a little to get a lot. So,
and I know, Steve, I know you probably can't answer this, but to go back to your question, Alderman Lang, I believe, not 100% confirmed, but we can actually negotiate a certain percentage that remain local for jobs that are local. We can negotiate with them and say that's what we would like to see as a city if we are looking to approve it.
Okay.
So that is an open thing that we need to keep on and speaking with, local unions, what be it, that laborers that would like those jobs. We want to kind of re-talk, because some of those we're not going to be able to provide because we just don't have those type of laborers here. But the certain percentage that we can, we want to.
I just want the ones that we can for it to be local, not out of state or far away.
I fully agree.
Fully agree. And I think that's a conversation they'd be more than willing to have with you.
Steve, you said property taxes would be the primary source of income from a data center, correct?
Primary and franchise fees.
Is that personal property?
It's personal and real.
And real. So
Yep.
every time they replace a server, there will be a new
reset.
A new property tax on that.
Property tax reset. Business personal property. Yep.
Now, how often do they have to replace those?
Every developer, my experience is everyone's different. Some says, well, technology evolves, we're going to flip them every 3 years. Some say 5, some say 7. I've never seen anybody say more than 7. But that's based on individual company designs. I can only speak anecdotally.
But the problem is, though, with one of the tax incentives that the state has given them, they do not have to pay for the computer tax, the replacement of servers, because they age
They
out.
wouldn't have to pay the sales tax, but they would still be obligated to pay the local property tax, real or personal. They would not have to pay the sales tax. So that 6.225% that's on top of the sale, yours is like 8.9%. But whatever that sales tax obligation is, that's all that the state sales and use tax exemption provides for them. All of the property taxes is at the local discretion, real and personal. So the brick and mortar to the computer operating.
So is the end user what I would call, since this is all new, the last time we've seen anything like this was the .com era. Is it a brick and mortar?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't call it brick and mortar. I would say it's pre-engineered concrete is the preferred design methodologies for most large data centers.
Right.
Built up concrete.
Well, there's a lot of, and it is a concern that we should be concerned about because there are a lot of companies out there that are just XYZ and they come
It's
in
not
and
a
rent it
metal
out.
building, it's not a tent, it is a highly durable, high-value building.
I'm talking about the owner, the end user.
Google them. They are involved in some of the largest development projects in our country.
Well, Crusoe's not the end user, though.
No,
Crusoe is the vertical developer.
Yes.
Yeah.
right, I'm talking about the end user.
End users, quite honestly, in the data center space, and I don't know how much time 2 minutes. In the data center, there are two types. This is my primary language of education. You've got owner-operators and you got vertical developers with tenant occupants.
We don't want that.
Well, actually, you might. An owner-operator, it's one facility, one end user, one operator, the whole thing. I like it because that's a permanent commitment. Others, they will say, like, okay, we're going to have multiple tenants in this building, which gives you a little diversity, it gives you a little spread. And depending on what industries they're catering towards, will kind of determine what that makeup is. But yeah, Caruso is a developer, colo developer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have public comments.
Hello, my name is Dina Doheg. I'm a resident of Warrenton. I have a question for Rob. He made a statement, I think he was talking about Public Service Commission and the SB4. They will make sure that they pay their share, but we need to know what their share is. Is their share 2%? Is their share 98%? What is the customer share going to be versus theirs? Their share is not enough information.
Thank you.
With that, Rob, can you give me just 2 minutes? Would you come back up to the podium? So different in this setting is different than what I think a lot of people were expecting. Would you or your company be interested in coming back up if the city of Warrenton set up something at the high school, say, if it's allowed, to answer question answers type situations where they can openly come up to the public and speak and ask?
Mayor, we'd be happy to participate in whatever form you'd like us to do. Excuse me. We'd be happy to participate in any form that you'd like us to. Obviously, we want to make sure that the public gets their questions answered. I would again encourage folks to take a look at some of those questions on the Public Service Commission's website. When we say pay their fair share, these data centers have to pay their cost of service. They're paying for using the energy, they're paying for their share of any of the infrastructure that we have to build that we're all using, and they have to pay 100% of their cost to connect to the grid. So the reason it says in the law, it's in Senate Bill 4, it's that they pay their share of the costs. And we all use the energy grid, and these are going to be large users of that energy, and they have to pay a very large share to do so. So no one's trying to be cute with terminology here. All of that information is spelled out, again, in terms of how our proposal is put forward. But to the extent, Mayor, that you need support from our team to help provide any information, we'd be happy to do so.
I know that there are people, and Alderman Lang has brought it up, that there's people that want their questions answered, and I agree with them. This setting will be back and forth if we do that, so I'd rather be able to try and host something soon that we can actually have them come up to a podium, speak the question, you guys answer it, and what be it.
Whatever we can do to support you, we're happy to.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Anyone else like to come up and speak?
Good evening. I am a resident of Truesdale, and my comment, I do not need a response. As soon as I say what I need to say, I plan on leaving.
Okay, can I get your name though real quick?
Sure. My name is Kelly Reel.
Thank you.
So it has come to the attention of many, especially those in the city of Truesdale, that there has been a change in plans regarding the annual Christmas parade. an event that so many in our community look forward to each year. This parade and the spirit of Christmas it brings has always been a magical evening that unites families, neighbors, and friends, some of whom may not otherwise have the opportunity to experience such joy and togetherness. As a longtime resident of Warren County since 1995, a mother to a daughter with disabilities, and the wife of a retired Army Staff Sergeant, the Christmas season holds deep meaning for me and my family. I also speak from a place of personal loss, having lost 2 brothers to suicide during the holidays. These events and traditions are more than just celebrations. They are lifelines of hope, healing, and community. With this recent change, families are now faced with the difficulty choice of where to be on December 6, 2025, because 2 neighboring communities could not come together to coordinate a shared celebration. This division is disheartening. For decades, my family, formerly I'm a Georgian, has cherished these moments of unity, joy, and the smiles that light up our towns during the holidays. I do not know the reason behind the change, but I do know the impact it has on the people who call this place home. I urge our communities to find a way to work together to restore the spirit of collaboration that has always made our holiday season so special. Thank you for your time, and I wish each and all of you a warm and joyful holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Brian Hogan. First, you guys asked some good questions. Thank you. It was good to see that you did your research and, yeah, you challenged them to an extent. A lot of numbers, obviously, we don't have that, we can't get answers for because they're customers. They're not disclosing who the customer is, as an end user, so forth and so on. But let's see here. All right, so my first question was, which is kind of in line with yours, Christine. What stops the company from going belly up, right? And then the next company coming in, paying pennies on the dollar to purchase this building, these assets, do a Trump, basically. And not have to pay all of the credit that they took from the city, from the state, from the government in order to build the infrastructure for Ameren, for our water supply that is still going to take a ton of water, even on a closed loop system, to cool the towers that the water has to go through in the loop system. So I mean, there's a lot of questions there still that weren't answered. I don't, I do, Eric, I do appreciate you proposing something bigger, better venue, more people. I think that would be best for our community for sure. As you probably might have seen, I've been posting a few things online, and this is definitely a decent turnout tonight compared to where we've been, right? Still a lot more residents need to get in front of this and make sure that this is what they want as well. I have nothing further. I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
And I have a question for Rob or Steve. Maybe you guys could help me with that question. How is the water cooled within the system? How is it cooled?
Yeah, the question is it evap or is it air cooled? That's my question.
Right, he said it's not that.
I mean,
I would defer that to the company for their response.
Okay.
I think he said when the engineering comes
All
in,
right.
it would probably be a better question.
Thank
for them.
you. I'm sorry.
My name is Oscar Hunter. Basically, I'm known as Butch Hunter around the community. I've moved here 50 plus some odd years ago, so I'm almost a local now. I haven't been in business here. We don't do much business here. We do it countrywide and worldwide. So the main thing is that I'm here for, I've got 27 personal reasons I'm here, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But the main thing is we've worked, one of our divisions was with the government, and we've worked in every slum in the nation. I'm telling you, from San Francisco to New Orleans to New York to Jersey to Chicago. So my personal thing is to make sure this community stays average or above. The last thing we need is lower income jobs that doesn't pay, so we need good paying jobs. That's the main thing I'm looking at right now. The main thing that, again, I don't think everybody's understanding is this community needs this business. So let me tell you a quick story about, and a lot of you, I'm not the only one that knows this family. They were, the boy was, excuse me, my son's age. They moved to Chicago just happy as could be. He got shot in downtown Chicago. Now his wife and 2 kids are back with their mother here. So that's the last thing we want, and Steve brought this up. We don't need our families moving away from here. We need this community to take care of them. So that's the one thing. And again, personally, the 27 things that I want personally is I've got 27 grand and great grandkids. I don't want them moving. And I hope nobody don't take this personal, but what I've noticed sitting here tonight, and anybody knows me knows I donate a lot of money to charity, including Agape. We've had all these questions and reasons why we don't want a company coming here that's going to pay taxes. And I don't want none of you up there to take this personal, but I didn't see one of you ask Agape, why do they need money, instead of asking, what can we do to stop this, where they don't need money? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Farrar. I live on 5th Street in town. I'd like to bring a few points of interest into focus for today's meeting. To preference, I'm just speaking as a resident asking for transparency in how the city and Ameren are handling the Warrenton Industrial Park North data project. First, I'd like to say that an ESA, or an energy service agreement, is a contract between a utility and a very large customer, like a data center, and that spills out who pays for the dedicated infrastructure needed to serve the site. A CIAC, or Contribution in Aid of Construction, is a payment the customer makes to cover those construction costs. Those are things like new feeders, switchers, or substations, so that regular customers don't end up footing the bill. The reason I bring this up is it goes in tandem with the woman who spoke earlier. Yeah, there you are. Hi. She was asking about how the costs are allocated. And these questions are specific to ask exactly how the costs are allocated. Together, an ESA and a CIAC are supposed to make sure costs follow the customer that causes them, so that households aren't subsidizing industrial loads. The second point is that MISO, M-I-S-O, I believe I've been saying it wrong, and he said it correctly because I've only read it. The grid operator for our region shows a 200 megawatt data center load planned at the Root Beer substation with an in-service date around December 2026. Now, that's not residential growth, and that's not presumption. That's an industrial class connection detailed in an April 7th Central Technical Study Task Force filing. So as far as the grid is aware, they're anticipating this load as well. Third is in Ameren's current PSC docket, ET 2025-0184. Testimony, including Robert Dixon's, acknowledges that the company revised its PRP, the Preferred Resource Plan, or generation plans because of, and I quote, historic, once-in-a-lifetime, unforeseen demand from large load users. That means that new gas, solar, and storage projects are being planned primarily for those large load customers. So that brings me to the questions, and I recognize that you asked for an open forum, but these are just to kind of put them out there in circulation. So has the project associated with Warrenton Industrial Park North or any large load customers within city limits already executed an ESA with Ameren, Missouri? If so, can the city or Ameren confirm whether that ESA has been filed publicly with the Missouri Public Service Commission or held under confidential status pending tariff approval? Because no ESA references appear in the PSC docket filings currently, it's unclear whether the project is already authorized under a separate agreement or if the execution is contingent on approval of the large load tariff itself. So since no formal proposal for Warrenton Industrial Park North has been presented publicly, could the city clarify what prerequisites still need to occur before that submission of the proposal? Specifically, is the city waiting on Ameren's large load tariff decision at the PSC, internal site control steps, or another external approval before the proposal can move forward? And most importantly, how will the ESA and CIAC ensure every penny of those dedicated costs stays with the industrial user and not shift into the residential rates? Will all CIAC agreements be made available to the PSC before the ESAs are issued? Right now, those big customers are being counted as residential loads and planning models, which inflates residential demand and hides the true subsidy. If they're not ordinary households, then they should be treated as their own customer class, not grouped with us. I believe that is currently being litigated with the PSC, but we are not currently separately rated. Finally, I'm requesting that the board publish the exact sunshine law subsection cited for every closed session related to the industrial park, and that the public summary be released once negotiations conclude. Additionally, I'd like to clarify regarding Bill 29-25, which authorizes a new elevated water storage tank for well number 10 in our northern service area. The language in that agreement refers to growth, demand, and reliability for future development, but it does not specify whether that future development is residential or industrial. So can the city confirm whether this new tank was sized and located specifically to support Warrenton Industrial Park North and its potential data center tenants, or if it was designed solely for citywide residential reliability? That clarification would help residents understand whether this is an infrastructure investment for the community or an industrial capacity project funded by ratepayers. The finance report shows that well number 10 storage tank is being paid out of the city's water enterprise funds and bond proceeds. There is no CIAC or development funds offset noted anywhere that I could see. Could the board confirm that this project is 100% publicly funded? And if it is intended to serve Industrial Park North, will there be any cost recovery from the industrial user who benefits from that capacity? Thank you very much. I will leave with you the questions.
Please.
So that you could look at them. I know it's a lot to swallow. I teach kids, so I use recycled paper, which is why it looks a little bit of a
Good.
mess. So thank you for your patience.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Wayne Baker. I'm associated with Warrenton Oil Company. I wanted to discuss and point out the tax benefit, the tax windfall, the tax impact of the potential data center, which I don't think is getting enough attention. Currently, Warren County tax assessed value for 2025 is $937.7 million. This intrigued me to do a look back. The assessed valuation in Warren County in 2000 was $194.5 million. That's 4.8 times today's tax assessed valuation for the county. It took 25 years to get there. 25 years. Additionally, the tax rate in 2000 was 5.174. Today it's 6.773, an increase of 31%. That tax increase has impacted the people that have been here on the backs of the taxpayers that have been here since at least 2000. Commercial real estate, as this data center will be assessed at, is assessed at 32% of appraised value. Using a $2 billion economic investment, that's $640 million of assessed valuation in one project. It's taken 25 years to go from 194 million to 937. Using that $640 million impact, that's a 68% increase in the county assessed value in less than 5 years. Now think about that. Just using our internal tax bills for property that we've owned since 2000 and not using the county and the state's complicated formula, I just looked at percentage, and on average it's about 7%. So you're paying tax dollars of 7% on your assessed value. This is commercial. This is not your home. This is not ag. That $2 billion project at 7% of the assessed valuation will create $44,800,000 of tax impact to the county. The school district gets 62% of that. The school district's in line to collect $27,700,000 in less than 5 years. If these numbers go to $4 billion, it doubles. If it goes to $6 billion, it triples. The point that I'm trying to make, and I don't think anyone's asking this question, what are the taxing districts going to do with the windfall? And I think that the taxpayers, and I'm asking for the taxpayers, what are you going to do with the windfall of money? I had a quick discussion with Dr. Klingsmith a few weeks ago. His first answer to the question was we're going to correct our teacher salaries and get competitive to the East competition. The second thing that we're going to look at is rollbacks. So my question tonight for the taxpayers of Warren County, assuming this project could come to fruition, what are you going to do with the money? And are rollbacks in your plan? Thank you.
Anyone else like to get up and speak?
Good evening, Cheryl Roberts, Long Hibbler. I would like to start by saying thank you to the boards and especially Alderwoman Waite, for the work that she has done on proposed ordinance for the zoning regulations. Her proposal certainly started a conversation on this subject with much input and that I feel is what was needed. Now to put together an ordinance that protects the community and sets parameters for incoming businesses of any type, but especially data centers or other businesses that use large amounts of water and electric. I also think we need more workshops, which you addressed this evening, that include community involvement. Their future plans affect our life. As a business owner in Warrenton, I want to see our community grow successfully. If you purchase property and homes with an HOA, they have very specific rules and regulations. We need more specific ordinances to protect our city and our county. I would like to see setbacks for adjoining properties at least 1,500 feet, especially with heavy industry like a data center. I think a tiered plan according to acreage and proximity to residential structures could be feasible. As has been brought up by myself and Mr. Bergeron, any structures could be as close as 40 feet to his property and as close as 20 feet to mine. Way too close for comfort. However, in this case, the acreage seems to change, so there needs to be protections that the setbacks stay in place for the proposed site according to the original plot. I believe it was discussed that proposed businesses could only occupy 40% of the acreage. I also think there definitely needs to be aesthetics of the structures and landscapes on all sides of the building, not just the front. Lighting needs to be addressed, as I assume it's going to be, so the businesses don't make neighbors feel like they're living in the bright lights of New York City. And noise levels of no more than 60 decibels, which is compared to a normal conversation. Generators can be very loud, and this particular property joins residents, farms on all borders, which could be very disturbing to humans, animals, and the wildlife. Generators should not be allowed to operate at night, and certainly not for long periods of time. You have stated Montgomery County Water District will provide the water for this particular property. But what if, when a proposal for a data center or any other large business comes before the board and they are not capable of providing the amount of water needed? When will the city provide the water, or will the proposal be denied? There should also be funds set aside for property owners who have wells that can and very possibly will go dry. Maybe this closed loop will take care of that. I'm not up on all that. Wells will have to be re-drilled. That cost should be covered by the proposed businesses. Landowners should be fully protected by all specific ordinances. Also, the wastewater system for said business needs to be addressed in an ordinance. In this particular property, there are 2 creeks adjoining or on the property. One is spring-fed. Those need to be protected and not have wastewater put in them or the creeks destroyed. Lastly, when ordinances are put in place, who sees that everyone is playing by the rules? The work session with Board of Alderman and P&Z brought up a lot of these points. Now we need to follow through with great ordinances. Please think of our community first, not the businesses. And let's get facilities that make our town and county grow, not destroy our precious commodities and lifestyle. And I will say, for me, it's a very personal thing, because my property borders 2 sides of whatever this industry will be. And it certainly will be a large change to our lifestyle and what will happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Fred Hudgens, and could I ask Rob to bring up that picture that showed the graph of Labadee Powerhouse and all that at the bottom of the screen?
I can do that. This one?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody in here is aware of any of this, but everything in the gray area is all next to a major river. And of course, they're all closing all them down, and that's all the powerhouses that use water to cool their...
I can't hear you unless you use the microphone.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not used to speaking in front of a lot of people. All of those powerhouses on the bottom there that's closing down are all next to the Missouri River, the Mississippi River, and they all use all that river for all their cooling. Okay, I've had the privilege of working at all those places. And so my still concern is my well is 600 feet deep. If they go 1,600 feet deep, my well runs dry, then what happens? I got no water. So, like I said, I didn't know if anybody knew that all those gray areas there are all next to major bodies of water. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ricky Wells. I'm new to the community. I moved here about a year ago. I was raised on the east side in Illinois, and I'm fully aware that we're discussing something that can really raise the value of our local community. And as the one gentleman said, we want to keep our children employed here. We don't want them to have to travel all over the country to look for work. And our nation needs to keep growing. And I've heard a lot of talk here tonight about regulation this, try to conserve that. We can't focus so much on that we fail to grow and that we just die. I've lived in communities that are dying, and it's not fun to be there. I was raised in Alton, Illinois, and when I was a boy, that was a very large industrial area. And the state changed all their environmental processes, and made it harder for industry to make money. I'm really concerned that we don't do that here. That we don't want to overgrow, I suppose, but we need to, as I think Steve said, we need to make the environment enhanced so that the industry will be attracted to come here and that our children and our future can be bright here. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come up and speak?
R.C. Carmody. I wasn't planning on coming up, but when the issue of the amount of income we could foresee through personal property and real estate taxes came up, I think I would be shocked if what you end up getting proposed from whoever this end user is doesn't include some sort of adjustment to that amount. I know back in the old days when Pepsi first came to town, I think they had some kind of deal where for like 25 years they didn't pay the set amount of taxes. Certainteed came with some tax abatement type of issues where they didn't pay the full amount that you would anticipate. I would just be very surprised if it doesn't end up being a property tax in lieu of, a situation. And to think that we're going to get every penny like you normally would on a commercial business for the real estate and the personal property, it would surprise me that they wouldn't try to get, not have to pay that amount. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to come up and speak?
Hello, I'm Lynn Brinkman. I am from St. Louis City and moved out here. And Christine, thank you for all the questions that you asked. I was really kind of surprised that you gentlemen didn't ask a few more. And because I am from the city, I was there when they did the casinos and said the casino money was going to go to the schools. Has anybody looked around St. Louis City? Schools are closing left and right. So I'm sorry, I don't believe a lot of the things these gentlemen are saying. And how can you say that you're attracting business, but you have no answers for 99% of these questions? If you've been approached for a business to bring into a town, then you need to come up with the questions and have the answers to bring to people here, not come and say, oh, we're going to find out, we're going to find out. When are we going to find out? The day that everything is signed? Because then it's too late. And if they're saying, we're going to get all this money, tell me, where is all this money going to be spent? Because schools can only accept so much money. Ambulance drivers, community, firehouses. We already agreed to pay an increase for the firehouses. So if you're going to get all these billions, millions of dollars that they're saying, are you refunding our taxes? Yes. I don't think so. Everybody just keeps taking, and taking. So when is taking enough? When do we go back to community? When do we go live into the land? Everybody doesn't need to live so far beyond their means that it's ridiculous. Everybody doesn't need an iPhone watch, 2 or 3 phones. Because the people of today, they can't even communicate with people. Go to the schools. They don't even use pen and paper anymore. Most of them are using little iPads. They can't sign their name. You're telling me this is progress? We can't sign our name? We can only print? They don't know how to balance a checkbook because it's so easy. Let's just look on our phone and see where our money is. But if it ain't all taken out, people are jumping to get more credit cards, to get further into debt. We did have the housing crash, we did have the banks crash, and look how many people were without homes then and lost everything because they didn't use common sense and go back to the basics. I think we're so far gone. Here, we should go back to the basics. I'm all about progress and everything, but to a point at what is the cost? Is to lose our families? And you can't tell me that these data centers are bringing in thousands of jobs. And if you all believe that, y'all got wool pulled over your eyes. Because I have this that tells about all of the states that rejected these data centers. And it says the most that they get is a couple dozen employees. So, you know, where is the growth there? And if you think they're all getting top dollar, they're not. Because we got a lot of companies here in St. Louis, they're not paying top dollar, so what makes you think just because this one's coming in that they are? And can you all honestly say none of yous know anything about this data center?
I do not.
That you don't have exact information, nobody knows the drawings yet, nobody knows the size, how many acres this place is going to use, how many people is actually getting hired, how much water is being used, how much lighting we're going to have, how many people are going to come up with respiratory problems because of all of this. There is a lot of information on the internet that you can look up and see all of these states that are declining this and saying they're recalling their aldermen and mayors because they're not doing what is right for the people here. And as people say, everybody is elected for the people here. And that's my comment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come up and speak? All right, we'll move on. Next will be City Administrator Brandy Walters.
Good evening. Tonight, I just have a couple things for you real quick. A few dates to remember is bulk trash pickup is going to be on November 10th for the north of Boonslick and November 11th, the south of Boonslick. And then December 6th at 5 p.m. is Hometown Christmas. We also are having an employee holiday banquet on December 11th from 11 to 3.
Brandy, I'm going to pause you for a minute. Let's allow some of this to leave so that we can actually hear what's being said.
Yeah, it just keeps going up.
All right, Brandy, thank you. If you could, go ahead and
And then the
continue.
final thing that I have is we are,
What's the time of the holiday party?
the holiday banquet is on December 11th from 11 to 3 here in the Annex Building. And I am requesting that we close City Hall during that time so that all the employees can attend.
You need a motion for that?
Just basically
Is there anybody that opposes City Hall being
No.
closed for that?
No.
There you go.
Are we
Perfect.
invited?
And one last thing is we do expect to have the data center site plan, and that will be going in our plan right now. No promises, is to go in front of planning and zoning on December 4th. My question for you guys is, this is the time for a public hearing at that point, and I have confirmed that the high school commons is available. My question is, do you guys want to move that meeting to the high school commons for the public
I think
hearing?
it's a good idea.
I think to accommodate for people wanting to come, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't see anybody having an issue with that.
Okay.
And that's not available, going to be on Zoom? Are we going to have internet
Unfortunately, there will not be Zoom available over there because I don't know their camera setup. So we would not have a Zoom link available at that.
Is there any way we could try and get a hold of their IT and see if we can accommodate that?
You can see.
Please do.
That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, 10th was north side.
Yes. The 10th is on the north side, 11th is on the south side of Boone Slick.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brandy. Next, we'll hear from Finance Officer Megan Welder.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have the September financials, kind of run through a few highlights since we've been here a little while. Revenue for the water and sewer is coming up short for services, but we're offsetting that shortage by interest earned on investments. Other revenue in the water and sewer fund is over, but that's just due to timing on grants that we're expecting to come in for projects. Excuse me. For expenses, again, kind of the same things that are happened over the last few months. So police is over budget due to timing on some of the expense categories, vehicle repairs and maintenance, and employee payouts, salary payouts. Building is still under $51,000 due to salary-related expenses. And as I've mentioned in previous months, sewer is over about $36,000 net after offsetting salary expenses related with the street wages. And then this net overage is due to equipment repair and maintenance and electric and gas expenses. Does anyone have any questions about the September financials?
I do not. Do you have anything else, Megan? Do you have anything else?
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're from Grounds and Maintenance Director, Justin Knoll.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have our report for September. A couple highlights would include replacing the playground surfacing under the swing set at Binkley Woods. The blue turbo slide at Morgan Park was repaired, so we could keep that without having to have it replaced. The crew, we've aerated, fertilized, and overseed pretty much the entirety of all the park grounds and city properties. We trimmed quite a few, quite a few of our easements along Main Street and the alleyway between Boone Slick and West Oak Street. That alleyway, the trees were encroaching, hitting the trash trucks and vehicles as they passed through there. So that was a good project to get done. We had 8 pavilion rentals for the month. We also had 3 tournaments at the athletic complex. And on a current date, of course, all the sports leagues have come to a close for the winter, and we're winterizing irrigation and getting ready for the seasonal change. So, you guys have any questions?
No. Any questions?
Nope. Appreciate it.
Excuse me. We skipped number 11 and 12. For the Board of Alderman's comments and the mayor's comments.
Okay.
Good.
Do you guys have any comments?
I said everything I needed to say.
I think a lot of us did it during the discussion.
Thanks for bringing it up high.
Any questions for Justin?
No.
I don't have any.
Thank you, Justin. Next, we're from Public Works Director Guy Jeevers.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. First time I had my monthly report. Red Bud and Dogwood curb and gutter and asphalt's been completed. We had a 6-inch water main break on Richmond and a 4-inch water main break on South Morgan, and we repaired 6 water shutoffs. We had a total of 3 sewer calls. All 3 were on private, and we replaced and repaired 2 manholes. We had a total of 236 236 Missouri 1 calls, and 10 of them were emergency calls. Any questions off my monthly report?
I do not.
Thanks, Guy.
Next item I have is approval for CIP lining to SAK Construction out of O'Fallon for the amount of $188,160. This is lining some sewer mains on Walton Street, Elm, Oak, and off of Cool by Old Orchlands. The budget amount was $195,000, which is leaving us $6,840 in case something else pops up as we're getting into that.
Any questions on that?
No.
This will be a bill.
Yes, there'll be a bill here.
I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 56-25.
So moved.
Second.
Which one do you guys want to go with? Okay.
No matter.
Motion made by Quarter, second, or Alderman Quarter, second by Alderman Lang.
Bill number 56-25, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between SAK Construction LLC and the City of Warrenton for 2025 CIPP lining project.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of bill number 56-25.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Quarter.
Bill number 56-25, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between SAK Construction LLC and the City of Warrenton for 2025 CIPP lining project.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Crump?
Yes.
Alderman Quarter?
Yes.
Alderman Waite?
Yes.
Alderman Romaker?
Yes.
Alderman Lang?
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guy, one question.
Yes, sir.
What is all that yellow pipe along North 47?
Gas line going to the school.
Gas line, okay. Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for an adjournment.
I didn't know what it was.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Crump, seconded by Alderman Lang. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We are so adjourned. Thank you, folks.